Hi, it's Paul Ryan. Last week I indicated my desire to have reliable and definitive information on the recorded music industry. The first stop was basic information on the consumption of music as it relates to the total population, and I used AC Nielsen and census information. And that led to this information. In 2026, the number of Americans who actively seek out and listen to music will be about 254 million people. But now that begs further questions on how these consumers behave vis-a-vis the purchasing of music. And that information needs to be bookended with revenue information. So to fully understand how the music industry and all its little tributaries are working today, here are the basic questions I thought that needed answers. How large is the industry in terms of revenue? What is the revenue share of specific genres? How much do people spend on music on average? What about the biggest spenders, the lowest spenders? Streaming, how big is it? What is the size of the largest digital service providers or DSPs? How big are they? How big's Spotify? How big's Apple Music? What about Amazon Music? And what about the smaller DSPs? How big are they in terms of revenue? What is the revenue for acoustic country or bluegrass? That was the original question that I had going into this. Or even country for that matter, which is a much larger genre. And going through a DSP, how much revenue are we talking there? And how do people actually consume music today? Do they stream artists? Do they stream albums, singles? What do we know about that? How large is the music industry vis-a-vis other industries? Kind of neat question, right? If I could get to the bottom of these questions, I'd have a pretty good idea of the size and the scope of the recorded music industry today. So, armed with these questions, I began my search. It didn't take long to find out that there's so much information on music spending and revenues, it's almost mind-boggling. But what is available to the public is a number of disparate studies, and they all measure different things. They use different samples. So there's no shortage of streaming statistics and revenues. There are European studies, American studies, international studies, but they all measure things a little bit differently. Meanwhile, DSPs provide their own data, including streams, sometimes revenues, and more. When you read and siphon all the information, some of it makes sense and some doesn't. But finding anything that glues it all together, it's not available. So I dug in further, and we're going to talk about that next week. Today's featured song is called I Was There. I wrote the song to celebrate the incredible journey throughout history of human achievement. As a songwriter, this is one song that I'm really proud of since it goes beyond the normal subjects of the human condition and views things from a much larger perspective.
I was there with Leonardo when he sketched Vitruvian Man, with siblings down at Kitty Hawk when wheels left the sand, with bleary-eyed inventors working through the night, searching for a missing link beneath the basement light. Few would recognize me, for I move along through time. I only come to those that dare put it on the line. Weary from the struggle, down on bended knee, ignoring their frustrations, thinking what could be. I am hope and passion, I am a young man's dream. I'll be there for every journey, every breathless leap. I am hope and passion, I am a young man's dream. I'll be there for every journey, every breathless leap. If If you stare in wonder at words from Whitman's pen, or marvel at the climber making his ascent, the honesty's unmistakable when dreamers meet their truth. Then once hid inside a cave, now he walks the moon. Should you choose to take to flight or tug a monster's tail, one thing sure, a timid hand might never set to sail. But if you reach up high to a place meant just for you, I'll be like a raging fire to help it all come true. I am hope and passion, I am a young man's dream. I'll be there for every journey, every breathless sleep. I am hope and passion, I am a young man's dream. I'll be there for every journey, every breathless sleep.
And now, here is this week's episode of The Musical Life of Freddie Spaghetti.
In our last episode, we found out that Freddie Spaghetti was going on tour. And once the tour details had been finalized, things began to move but quick. There never seemed to be enough hours in the day to get everything done. A local newspaper called asking for an interview with the local Cherry Creek and Community Angle. Freddie's Instagram and TikTok accounts, well, they were exploding with new followers, courtesy of a Delta promotion campaign, and that required time too. When Freddie handed in his resignation at the day job, it was with mixed emotions. He said his goodbyes to Joe and the other people he'd worked with and informed Manny, the supervisor, about the music company deal. Manny offered no promises about a return, but Freddie's work had been top-notch. So, well, it might not be the old job with the forklift. Manny would try to find something if Freddie ever needed to come back. They shook hands, parted ways, and Freddie walked home wondering, what have I done? Britt was his first call, then Mum, then Hackett. Things were moving real fast. Holy crap, I'm going on the road just like the pros do, Freddie thinks as he packs his bags for the tour. He goes through a mental checklist of all the things he needs for life on the road. Toothbrush and toothpaste, razor and shaving cream. Check, check. Undies, lots of undies and lots of socks. Check, check. Jeans, check. Shirts, check. Guitar and capo. Yeah, guitar and capo. Check, check. Got those. He makes a few trips downstairs to pack the car that Delta had rented for him. Each trip becomes a little slower than the one before, as if Freddie is being overly careful before entering a brand new chapter of his life. The rental car is a Volkswagen Jetta. It's small, but it's got enough space that he can stuff all the bags in. The Martin guitar rides in the passenger seat, right along with the capo and some sandwiches his mom had made for him for the trip. Each of these passenger seat items is placed there intentionally and very carefully. They represent Freddie's connection between his brave new life on a tour and his life with Britt, his parents, and his old life strumming music on the couch. Finally, Freddie is all packed and ready to go. He presses the Jetta ignition button, puts the car in drive, and he heads off for Detroit, Michigan. Hi, it's Paul Ryan here. Thank you so much for spending your time with me here on Sound Threads. I hope you enjoyed the show and hope you'll join me next week for another edition of Sound Threads.